Tuesday session. So I'm Sumitra from HTIC. So HTIC is the head incubator for the Tamil Nadu BioNest cluster, and the cluster consists of 10 incubators. So the 10 incubators come under the name of Tamil Nadu Bio Cluster. So along with TIE Chennai Health Consec, we are organizing today's Knowledge Tuesday session. So now I would invite Dr. Hardeep Ora, CEO of Sri Ramachandra Innovation and Incubation Cell, to host the today's Knowledge Tuesday session. So over to Dr. Hardeep Ora to give a short introduction about the speaker for today's session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sumitra. Am I clearly audible now?
Yes, Doctor.
Thank you. So good day, everyone. I welcome everybody to another episode of the Knowledge Tuesday series, which is being currently co-hosted between the Tamil Nadu cluster and the TIE Chennai Healthcare SIG. The aim of this series is to bring subject matter experts from different domains to share insights on the upcoming trends, technologies, and bottlenecks for entrepreneurships. So in today's series session, we have Mr. Kaushal Shroff as the speaker, who is the founder and CEO of Aspire 360, located at Princeton, New Jersey, in the USA. He is the founder and CEO of Inspire 360, a digital. He's the founder and CEO of Aspire 360, a digital marketing agency in Princeton, New Jersey, and the founder of LeadBx, an innovative digital product. He's also a former director of digital marketing at Prudential and a former director of Digitas, overseeing the American Express account. He's also a co-founder of Global Linker, a platform that was later acquired and currently used by over 350,000 SMEs and brands like MasterCard and HSBC Bank. He completed his MBA from Rutgers University. He's an author of a technology patent and a serial entrepreneur. Mr. Kaushal Shroff has a unique combination of skills and experience in digital marketing, user experience design, and business strategy for Fortune 500 corporations and startups, ability to identify hidden opportunities and cross-apply unrelated insights. He built a marketing technology stack and oversaw the selection, implementation, and integration of new tools, platforms, and technologies at Prudential. So please welcome Mr. Kaushal Shroff on behalf of the Knowledge Tuesday sessions. And Mr. Kaushal, over to you for the presentation.
Excellent. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And I'd also like to thank all of you for joining this session. I'd like to thank Muthu Singaram for inviting me and Sumitra for coordinating this event. The objective of this session and specifically this presentation is to share with you the marketing roadmap as well as blueprint. And along the way, we'll be sharing tactics, tools, and examples so that you are able to implement some of the marketing activities and drive revenue growth over time. So there are a lot of details in this presentation. We will make this presentation available, so hopefully you can use this as a reference guide as you are going through your journey, and you'll be able to reference this as you reach certain stages of maturity. So we'll leave some time at the very end for questions and answers. So please think about any questions you may have as we are going through this session. And in the very end, we'll also share free resources and tools with you. So hopefully you'll stick around till the very end. And you can see my screen and hear me okay, I'm hoping?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
May I also request the participants that if you have any questions during the presentation, you may also post them in the chat box and we'll take them up one by one towards the end.
Excellent point. All right, great. So the agenda for this conversation, first we'll share marketing fundamentals, followed by blueprint, roadmap, and then free resources and tools at the very end. So starting with marketing fundamentals, business has two functions, marketing and innovation. So I'll leave the innovation to you. And in this session, we'll focus mostly on marketing. So I'm hoping that all of you have some interesting idea, product, or service that you're bringing to the marketplace. And my job in this session is to share with you some actionable tools, tips, techniques, show you some examples so that you can hopefully bring those ideas and take them to market. So first we'll look at B2C versus B2B marketing. On the left side, you have sort of the B2C, traditional B2C model, which focuses on lead generation. So this is like fishing with net. You cast a wide net and then you hope to catch fish with that net. On the right side, we have account-based marketing, and this model is used for B2B marketing, and this is like fishing with spears. So it is incredibly targeted and focused on specific accounts. Of course, the best combination is to use both of these together, and they sort of complement each other really well. But for the purpose of this conversation, we'll focus more on account-based marketing, and you'll see some elements of lead gen as well. So with account-based marketing, what we do is we first focus on who is our target audience, what are the right segments, and how do we then nurture those accounts and those leads and those kinds of segments, and then convert those segments into paid customers or clients. So that'll be our focus in this conversation. So here are some of the fundamentals. Of course, these are sort of my top 10, if you would. And I think this is what we have seen a lot of the brands and startups, could focus on. So we wanted to share these with you. So the first one is to think from your audience's perspective. It's all about them and never about you. And a lot of times we see that startups are so focused on their own product or their own service that they make everything centered around their product or service, rather than thinking about how this solves someone else's problems. So all your communication, all your outreaches should focus on benefits, not features. Of course, there can be no spelling or grammar mistakes. This conveys lack of attention to details. When I was at Prudential, I would come across a lot of vendors, and if I see any mistakes in their presentations, in their slides, that makes me wonder, how reliable is their product? Are there bugs? Are there issues? Because I cannot see their code. So I extrapolate from there, and it does put a question mark on how reliable their product is. So these are simple things. If you can just run your slides and your content through Grammarly as an example, then you can avoid this sort of mistakes and errors. Then value relationships over transaction. So here we are focus on developing the relationship, and some of those relationships can then move into transactions. Develop personas for deeper understanding, and we'll see this in a minute. And the reason behind developing persona is so that you understand and you empathize with your segment. And the way to understand your segment better is to do research, look at reviews that someone may have posted, join groups on social media sites to understand what kind of conversations they are having, conduct deep interviews with members from your segment. Because to the degree that you can understand your segment, their pain points, their challenges, you will be able to fine-tune your communication to meet their goals, their objective, and you'll be able to connect with them a lot better. Content is king, context is queen. So context is incredibly important. As I mentioned earlier, to the degree that you can empathize and understand their specific needs, your communication will be that much more effective. Scale personalization. So each individual should feel like you're only having a conversation with them, even though you're having conversation with your entire segment. Leverage social proof and validation. And this could include, especially as you're starting out, you may not have a lot of testimonials, but you could use things like awards, certifications to build credibility in the marketplace. Use emotions to drive action. This is an incredibly powerful way to connect, engage, and get your audience to take the action you need them to take. And then finally, find your own blue ocean. And here we are not talking about changing your product or adding any new features. We are simply talking about shifting what your audience chooses to focus on. So how do we do that? So let's look at that a little bit more. So brand positioning. The brand positioning is entirely about how do you get your audience to focus on elements where you are strong and where your competitors are weak, and things that your customers actually value. This will allow you to position your brand in a way that gets traction in the marketplace. So here there are three circles. At the top, you have what customers want. On the bottom left, you have what competitors do best. And on the bottom right, you have what your brand does best. Ideally, you want to be in an area of convergence between what customers want and where your brand is really strong. That is the winning zone. That is where you can compete and win. If If your customers want something and your competitors are already doing a really good job, that's a losing zone. This is where you do not want to compete because you may not be able to outperform your competitors, especially if they already have a presence in the marketplace. If people already know that they are very strong in this specific area, it may not make sense for you to position your brand and compete with them in those areas. Also, if you and your competitors are really good at something and if customers don't care about it, then there's no point of competing in that area. So the ideal area where you want to compete is what your customers actually care about and where you can outperform your competition. And you want to highlight those benefits to your audience. And those are the benefits which are likely to stick and which are also likely to help you stand apart in the marketplace. So with those fundamentals, and of course we can have an entire session just on the fundamentals, but we do want to move on to the blueprint and the roadmap as well, so that I can share with you some tactical, actionable items that you can take with you. So let's move on to the blueprint. So here is a sort of a simple B2B marketing blueprint that you can start with. So first you start with your contact list. You do a multi-channel outreach using, let's say, email and LinkedIn. This is perfect for B2B outreach. You direct this audience and this traffic to your landing page from where they can book an appointment, and then you can get on a call with them and close the deal, as an example. In some cases where, let's say, your audience is very broad, it may not make sense for you to have meetings with everyone. In that case, you can have a demo, or you can have a video, or you can have some information where they can transact directly from your landing page or your website. So it's not necessary that you have a conversation in every case, but if you have very few, or if you have very few accounts that you are targeting, or if your product or service is incredibly complex where it makes sense to have conversations, then in that case you would want to set up a meeting and have a conversation with them. Also, from these conversations you can learn a lot about your product, about what their pain points are, so on and so forth. Now, once you master this, you can layer additional layer on top of it, which includes having a website which is search engine optimized, which already gets traffic from the search engine. And now you can use that traffic and you can install a widget like LeadBx, which I'll discuss in more detail as we progress through this presentation, to capture leads. And then those new leads can be added to your CRM database to continue the multi-channel outreach. And then on the other side, you can use retargeting data to then surface those ads to those individuals who have already been on your website. And then you can direct that traffic onto the landing page. And remember, landing page is designed to convert that traffic into either leads or paid customers. They are designed with some specific action in mind. And landing pages convert a lot better than a website. So the idea is that you can build multiple landing pages, which we'll look at in a minute, each one for each segment in your audience. And then you're targeting visitors from your ads onto the landing page. And you're sort of encouraging them to convert or share their contact information and so on and so forth. So you can do that sort of retargeting based on who visited your website already using retargeting ads. In our opinion, what we have seen is use ads very sparingly. Certainly don't use them early on. It's a great way to lose a lot of money without getting a lot of traction, especially if you have not fine-tuned your audience and your offer. So first, it makes sense to fine-tune and understand your audience, see what sort of traction you're getting, what offer they find most useful. And once you have all those things figured out, and when you have significant budget, only then you should look at ads, because it's a very expensive way to find out what offer your audience finds useful and even who is your audience. So those sort of things you really want to figure out before you spend time and effort and money in paid ads. So in our opinion, use this very sparingly and use it later on in the stage. Initially, you want to focus more on this sort of an outreach. So with that in mind, let's look at the roadmap so that we can see how you'd build out this entire funnel and how you build out this entire blueprint. So here we take you on sort of a step-by-step journey, and we'll look at each one of these steps in more detail throughout this presentation. And along the way, I'll share with you tools, techniques, as well as examples so that you can make this very actionable. So there are three parts here. First one is identify, so that you're identifying who your audience is. Second is attracting that audience. And then third is converting that audience. So in identify, there are three steps. One is sort of a planning questionnaire that I'll show you in a minute. which will help you understand the psychographic of your audience, what their needs are, what their pain points are, what other options they are considering, so on and so forth. Then based on that, you'll build at least 3 personas, and this will sort of function as different segments that you would want to target. Based on those personas, you'll build out your contact list. So we'll share tools and exactly how to build out your contact list and get their contact information. And now that you have your contact list and you know who your audience is and what their needs are, you'll build out a sales copy, and we'll share some best practices on how to write good, compelling sales copy, which then you'll use in building out a landing page, or if you have a website, you can use that copy on your website. Then you'll build a lead magnet, which is designed to attract the right kind of audience and get them to exchange their email address in order to download something useful like an ebook. And then we'll share with you how you can do an email and LinkedIn outreach using the sales copy that you have developed. And finally, how you can have a successful meeting to close a deal. So this is a journey. Now, nothing in life is ever this linear or systematic, but we have tried to keep this simple and so that you can follow along. So with that, let's start with the planning questionnaire. So at top, you can follow along and see exactly where we are in the journey. So the questionnaire, there are 10 very critical questions that you should answer fully. I would really suggest that you don't skip this step, because it will give you deeper insight and it will allow you to connect with your audience a lot better. So first, you want to start out with something as simple as building out your list and description of each one of your product and service in order of priority. Then highlight some of the key benefits from your customer's perspective. So, are you offering luxury, style, ease of use? What are some of the key benefits? What problems are you solving? Then what are the different segments that you are trying to attract? List as many different segments as possible. Some may be very obvious, but then as you spend more time, you may discover additional segments that you have not thought of. So list out all the different segments. Then spend some time on psychographic. So these are key challenges, hidden fears, objections. And you'll see in the next stage why this is very critical, especially as you are looking to connect and engage with your audience. Because if they feel that you understand their needs better, they are more likely to trust you. They are more likely to engage with you. You should also think about interest and hobbies. This becomes especially important as you think about paid ads, because then you can think about how to target them based on their interest and hobbies, as an example. Then current process, what is already working that you can build on? Then the next set of questions are sources. Where would you find your ideal customers? Complementary businesses. So what are other industries or other businesses that you can maybe cross promote, and you can form partnerships with those businesses, as an example. Who are some of your competitors? Now, when you're thinking about competitors, we would suggest that you think more broadly. So to give you an example, Southwest Airlines didn't just see other airlines as their competitors. They also saw car rental companies as their competitors. Because the thinking is that if you're looking to travel from one city to another, your options are really to either fly or to rent a car and then drive. So think more broadly when you're thinking about competitors. Think also about alternatives in adjacent industries or verticals that your competitors, that your customers may be thinking as they are considering your product or service. Marketing activities. So what type of marketing activities have worked well in the past and how you can build on it. And then finally, promotions. What type of offers will your audience find most useful? Okay, so once you have done this level of rigor and thinking behind your audience, their needs, their fears, their hidden objections, then you can build out this persona. So this is something we have done for one of our clients. And here you can see that we have built out 5 personas. So the first 2 personas are in the doctor's office. The persona in the center is complementary services, so agency partner. And then the last 2 personas are mid-sized organizations that may find our events and courses useful. And even within a doctor's office, the way our doctor would think of an offer is very different than a way a receptionist would think about an offer, right? So knowing who is in that segment and who your emails or your communications are targeting, the way you would communicate would be totally different. This is, by the way, also true if you're thinking about LinkedIn outreach or if you're thinking about content on your website. So knowing your audience is incredibly important. And within the same sort of a broad segment, there are subsegments. So here you have a doctor, you have a receptionist, and if we zoom in further into this a doctor, this is what their persona would look like. So here we have a 58-year-old physician. He takes pride in providing best care for his patients. He's stressed due to lack of time. So now you know that he doesn't have a lot of time. Your email communication has to be very concise, right? Because you know that you have to, he already has very little time. He uses internet to connect with friends. His hidden fear is being perceived as out of touch with his patients. So now you know that all of your communication should maybe share some useful insights or industry trends, so that he feels like he is staying current with the changes in the industry. So this is where a persona can be very useful, because now you're going a lot deeper and you're understanding their needs and their objections and so on and so forth. He wants to know about the latest advances so he can better serve his patients, and he's looking for accuracy, speed, and ease of use. So all of your communication should focus on these factors and these variables, so you can communicate with this individual more effectively. And then it's also very likely that other individuals within the same segments will have similar needs and similar pain points and fears. So now that you're familiar with your personas, we are now looking at the contact list. So here, the first step is to search for your audience on LinkedIn. And here are sort of the 5 steps. So now we are going into a lot of details. We will share this deck with you afterwards. So if you don't get all the details, you can always reference it afterwards as well. So here are the 5 steps. First, you search for, let's say, a keyword. When you do, all these filters would appear right below. You'll click on people, and then you click on all filters. And when you do that, this window will appear right below it. And this is where you can select location, you can enter title, company name, and you can click on show results. It's important to note that as you can see here in the title section, it allows for Boolean search. So you can use words like or, and, not. So in this case, we have said that anyone with the title of owner or CEO or founder, we are looking to target. So anyone with those words and anyone who belongs to a company with a radiology in the company name, those are the only individuals that will show up in the results. So it's a really great way to filter your search results so that you can sort of hyper target that specific audience. So now that you have your audience on LinkedIn, and this audience is, remember, based on the personas that you created earlier, now how do you find their contact information? So we would recommend a tool like SalesQL. There are other tools as well, but SalesQL we have found to be very useful. SalesQL is a tool that will help you now find their email address, their phone number, so that now you can have a multi-channel outreach with your audience. So this is a great tool. And in fact, it's free to sign up. And I think it gives you something like 100 contacts per month for free. So it's a great way to get familiarized with the tool. And you can use other tools as well. There are other tools in the marketplace, but this is a great way to gather their contact information, their phone numbers, know what their title is, and so on and so forth. So now we have completed this first part, which is we've filled out the questionnaire, we developed our personas. We would suggest at least 3 personas to start with, and each persona is sort of a segment that you want to focus on. And then you have created your contact list. So now you have their email addresses, their phone number. So you have a way to engage with your audience. So next, let's focus on how we'll attract our audience. So here we'll look at how we'll build out the sales copy, how we'll build out the landing page or your website, and how we'll create a lead magnet. So this is all designed to attract your audience to your offer. So before we begin with the sales copy, I wanted to share this with you. So these are all the different variables that a B2B decision maker takes into account when selecting a specific product or service. Okay, and the objective here is to show you how many variables there are and what the different categories are, without going into detail. So they look at inspirational values, something like vision, social responsibility, individual values. I remember when I was at Prudential, I would look at things like, okay, what is the reputational risk if I bring in this vendor? Will they be able to deliver their product or service? Because to a degree, my reputation is also at stake. Then they'll look at Organizational value. What is the benefit to the organization? Well, from productivity, access, relationships. Then they look at functional value, performance, and then finally table stakes. Does it meet specifications, and is it ethical, and so on and so forth. The reason I'm sharing this is because I have noticed a lot of startups, especially in the South Asian continent, focus entirely on cost reduction or adding more revenue. And the point I'm trying to make is there are all these additional variables that you may be leaving on the table that maybe you're not addressing in your communication, which may also play a role, even if it's a supporting role in decision making. So my suggestion would be broaden your value proposition so that you do take multiple variables into account as you're communicating with your audience. So cost reduction is just one of the many variables. You can focus on luxury, comfort, some of those other variables as well, which may also factor into their decision making. So what we have done is we have condensed this list into top 10 whys. And these are sort of the top 10 reasons or top 10 reasons why someone should buy your product or service. And our suggestion would be to focus on 3 to 5 whys in your offer, in your headlines, in your stories, in your bullets, in your content, and think of each one of these why as sort of a peg that will hold your offer against the winds of objection, right? So if you just have one peg, then if it's very windy, your tent can get blown away. But if you have multiple pegs, it will hold your offer steady. And by the way, if you find this useful or interesting, there's a great book called Copywriting Secrets by Jim Edwards, which I would recommend you read, which goes into a lot more detail. But here we have given you a snapshot of the top 10 whys. So your product or service either helps them make money, save time, avoid effort, escape mental or physical pain, get more comfort, health and wellness, gain praise, feel more loved, or increase social status. And our suggestion would be to focus on at least 3 to 5 of these, and then build your copy and your communication around those. So let's go a level deeper into how you would take this and then convert this into copy. Okay. So here are the questions you should answer. In terms of, let's say, for example, making money. What are 5 ways my product will help them make more money? Or let's say we're talking about saving money. How can they save money over the next week, month, or year? Or same time, how much more time they will save and what can they do with it? Now, what can they do with it is also important, right? Because now this makes it very real. And yet now you're also able to connect with them at an emotional level. So you can say things like, now that you have more time, you can spend more time with your family and friends, right? Or you can go on that vacation that you've always been planning, or you can take up a new hobby. So now that makes it very real. And you do want to make your communication as real and as tangible as possible. And then there are others as well, avoid effort. So what is something they don't have to do anymore? Or health and wellness, how does it help them be more healthy or feel better about themselves? How does it make them feel more loved or improve their social status? And then you pick 3 or 5 of these, and then you weave those into your copy. So with that in mind, let's look at landing page. And what is the objective of a landing page is to make it very targeted and help your audience convert. And the way we do this is by not having a navigation, keeping it very simple, having a clean, simple design, having only one call to action. So here you can see there's only one button, shop now. There's no navigation at the top, right? There is one simple message. There's a compelling offer, 3 to 5 key benefits. So why they should click on these buttons, and then social validation. So this could include testimonials, it could include awards, clients, certifications. Why should they work with you? How can you sort of display your credibility in the marketplace? And the way you can create these landing pages, if you are using Wix for your website, it's very easy to create landing pages. If you're using WordPress, or you can use a tool called LeadPages. So if you don't have a website or WordPress, and if you want to just create simple landing pages, you can use a tool like LeadPages. And the benefit here is that they not just make it very easy for you to build landing pages, but they also show you the highest converting lead pages, because they have that line of sight across all of their members and customers to see which landing pages convert the best. So now you don't have to do trial and error. You can look at the highest converting landing pages in your category or in your industry, and then you can just modify the messaging and the images and the offer to fit your specific needs. And it's very likely to convert. So you can use some of these tools to create landing pages. Of course, if you have a website, you can also simplify your website. Of course, on your website, you'll have navigation, but have one call to action, have a very clear offer, offer simple benefits above the horizon if possible, so a user doesn't have to scroll down, and they can view why they should work with you or why they should purchase your product or consider your services, and organize your information so it's easy to scan. So those are some of the fundamental best practices. Here's another example of a good landing page. Again, one call to action, very simple offer, clear image, 3 key benefits as high up as possible on your site. Here's another one. What I liked about this one is that they have a chatbot so that they can engage and interact with you. And they also show where they've been featured. Here's an example of a bad landing page, and you can see why this is not a good landing page. There's a lot of copy. There are a lot of calls to action, so there are a lot of buttons. I'm not sure where to click. There's a broken image. Form is very long. Once you go past 2 or 3 fields, then the submission rate declines substantially. So very few people will fill out a long form as opposed to just providing their email address as an example. So these are all bad practices. And if you must have a lot of content, so some products or services may be complex, then my suggestion would be still have few key benefits like this, where they can scan this information and then provide additional details below, or use headers to organize your content so that they can skip to a specific section and read that section that interests them the most. So make an effort to organize your information if you must have a lot of information, or make a use of bullet points as an example. So make an effort to organize your information so it's easy for them to consume that information. So moving on, next topic is lead magnets. So what are lead magnets? Lead magnet is an incentive on your website where a user is exchanging something valuable like their email address in exchange for either a checklist or an ebook or a template or a white paper. And lead magnets you can display either on your website, or you can include them in your email communication or on your LinkedIn outreach. So they're designed to deliver value, establish trust, because you are delivering something useful, right? That has some value to your user, and you're gathering some contact information or some useful information in return. So it has to grab attention. It has to solve an actual problem, deliver quick value, has to be actionable, useful, easy to consume, instantly accessible. And it has to showcase your expertise, and it has to be related to what you are selling. So that the individuals who are providing their email address are also the individuals who will likely be interested in your service, so then you can send them emails afterwards. If you are not sure how to create a lead magnet or how to display those lead magnets on your website, we have a tool. There's our own tool called LeadBx. And if you send me an email, I can give you free access. So your library of ebooks you can select from. You can brand it with your contact information, your logo, and there'll be a widget that sits like this on your website that your visitors can provide their email addresses to access this ebook. And it's a very rich sort of a magazine-like experience. So your visitors can flip through different pages. They can click and connect with you. And it's a very rich user experience. And just to give you a quick preview. So it's a widget like this that sits on your websites. It's interactive, and your users can provide their email address to download the ebook. And the ebook itself looks like this. So it's a magazine-like experience. They can flip through it, and they can jump onto a specific page, or they can click and connect with you. And this ebook is completely branded with your contact information. So even if they download this ebook, they can always get in touch with you once they are ready to make a decision. So let me get back here. So if you'd like to use this widget, just send me an email. I'll share my contact information at the very end, and I can give you free access. And then you can install this on your website or your landing page. Now, the thing here is that you must have some traffic to convert that traffic into leads. So if you have no traffic, you'll probably not find this very useful. So now that we have looked at attract, let's look at how you can convert your emails and how you can do a LinkedIn outreach and how you can have a successful meeting. So this is a good sequence of emails to focus on. So first, we are using sort of the emotion, logic, fear email sequence. So each email is focused on a specific subsegment of your audience, because different individuals react to different kinds of emotions. So there is one subsegment of your audience which will which will act based on emotion. There's another segment which is very logical, and they'll need all the facts to make a decision. And then maybe a third audience which will focus more on fear of missing out, fear of being left behind, and they'll only take action if they feel like they may be missing out on something. So the advantage of this email sequence is that you're targeting all three audiences. And with each email communication, you are delivering some new information and you're educating your audience along the way. So the first email is personalized introduction email. Second is to connect with them at an emotional level. Third email is focused on data, features, logic. Fourth email is focused on scarcity and fear of being left behind. And fifth and final email is focused on addressing any objections and sort of a final follow-up. And if they don't respond to these first 5 emails, then you can include them in your drip campaign, which is just ongoing communication. And this ongoing communication has to deliver value to them, right? So it cannot be about selling your product or service. You can always weave your product or service in the conversation, but you have to deliver something valuable, either industry insight, or, have you thought about this? Or here's an interesting article I found, or here's a blog topic I thought you would find useful, that sort of thing. So at any given point, all throughout your communication, you're looking to deliver value and build trust. It's never about you, it's always about them. So now we will look at some of the key components that make some of these email communications successful. These are some elements. Again, we'll be sharing this deck so you can read this copy in more detail, but I wanted to highlight some of the key elements that you should have in your email. So one is personalize your email. So with the tool that I shared with you, SalesQL, you will have individuals' first names. So use all that data to your advantage. Use first names where possible, so the email seems personalized. It doesn't seem like you've sent this email to 500 individuals. Open-ended subject line can improve open rate. In fact, this subject line gives us one of the highest open rates because they don't know what question you have till they open the email. You're right, so they are likely to open the email to see what question you have. Then we have key benefits written from audience's perspective. So here we are saying efficiency gains upwards of 30% while enhancing quality of patient care. So again, this is from their perspective. Limited time offer. So we are creating scarcity and making it time bound. An enticing offer, 14-day free trial, right? So these are some of the elements in the introductory email that will help you sort of at least engage with your audience. And the other thing is you do want to personalize your first line, especially in the initial communication when possible. And this first line has to be personalized for 2 reasons. One is because it shouldn't seem like this is a mass email and you're looking to connect with them at an individual level. But B, this is also great when you're doing email communication, because a lot of these email providers would look at these emails and say that, okay, each email is somewhat distinct. Each email has some unique text in it, and that makes it not seem like a mass email, so that you are more likely to not be blacklisted. So those are 2 very important reasons to personalize your first line. And the tool that we'll share with you, you can actually put all of these first lines in an Excel document, and then it'll pull the first line, it'll pull the first name, and it'll pull the email address, and it'll make each email custom email. And it'll send each email out, even though you're sending it to a big audience. And the first line can be something like, we see that you opened a new branch, or we see that you launched a new product, or I see that you are now offering this service, something like that, something that is specific to that business or that individual. Here's an emotional email. Here we are focusing on the key benefit but more importantly, we are looking at emotion. So what, you can focus on what you enjoy. You can spend more time with your family. You no longer have to worry about complicated reports and word processing programs, and we can take care of all of that for you, so you can simplify your life. So it's entirely focused on emotions. This one is a logical email. So here we are sharing some of the key benefits in bullet points, and we are using logical persuasion. So we are saying fraction of that cost, better accuracy, lower cost of service, you can see more patients. So this will appeal to anyone who uses logic in decision making more than emotion. This is a fear email. So here we are looking at social validation. We are looking at positive and state of mind. We are looking at fear of lost opportunities. So you could be missing out on higher quality of patient care and lifestyle while leaving money on the table. So we are saying that if you don't take this action, you could be leaving money on the table. You are maybe not improving your lifestyle and patient care to the degree you could. So we are sort of highlighting and bringing to the forefront the cost of not taking action. And this email will work well with individuals who may not be early adopters. And in a final follow-up email, we are addressing some of the key objections. So these are hidden objections that they may have that they may never get a chance to tell you because they are simply not responding to your email. So here you address those objections upfront. So you say, you may be wondering, this is worth your money. Well, we are offering a free trial. You may be wondering if this will be more efficient. Well, on average, we are seeing 30% increase in efficiency. Or you may be wondering if this is right for your specific situation. We customize our solution to fit your needs. So you have a response to each one of the objections that they may have. Now remember, this is where the earlier exercise we did about personas, finding their key objection becomes so critical, because you can bring all of those objections into your copy here. If you had not done that exercise, or if you did not spend as much time, you wouldn't know what their key objections are, and you may not be able to address those objections, and you would never be able to sort of bring them into the conversation. And then finally, you can say in the final email, you can say, if you're not ready now, let me know. I can follow up in a few months. So you are using reverse psychology, where you're saying, okay, I will not bother you if you are not interested. Just let me know if you'd like me to reconnect in a few months. And you'll be surprised how many people would actually respond back to something like this, to say, like, you know what, it's not that I'm not interested, I'm not just not ready right now. Yes, why don't you reconnect in 6 months? So this is sort of the sequence. And here are some of the best practices. I'll not go into details, but it's very important to avoid complex HTML, avoid a lot of links, avoid a lot of different fonts, keep your email short, concise. Avoid spikes in email volume, especially as you're starting out. Start with something like 10 emails a day and slowly build up your email volume. We would also recommend not using your primary email address in case it gets blacklisted. So use a email address which mimics your primary email. So in our case, we use kshroff@inspire360.co instead of .com. So in case that email address gets into trouble, my primary email address with .com is still unimpacted. I can still use that for business transactions. So this email address is only designed for outbound email outreach. Once they respond back, then I reply back with my .com email address. These are some tools that you should use to validate your email address, validate the copy that you're using, as well as validating the recipient email addresses, and making sure that those email addresses are valid. These are free tools that we would recommend that you use before you do an email outreach. And then, of course, make your emails personal. Don't use images sparingly. Keep it short, concise, so that it doesn't get triggered as spam, and your emails are likely to end up in the inbox. For LinkedIn outreach, we would suggest a tool called LinkedIn Helper. And this is a great tool which will allow you to scale your LinkedIn outreach. Here, we would recommend, again, start with a low volume and don't exceed more than 50 outreaches a day. Our recommendation would be like 25, 30, 40 at most, so that you can stay under the radar. But this will automate connecting with your right audience and also sending out messages once they connect with you. And here's a sample LinkedIn script. Again, use personalization where you can, have a simple call to action. LinkedIn outreaches have to be even more concise. compared to email outreaches. I have gotten some LinkedIn outreaches which have a lot of details. I just feel like this individual doesn't understand, how stretched I am for time, or doesn't value my time, and so I just ignore those outreaches. Also, you can include your phone number, so you are opening up an alternate communication channel. And then finally, meeting. So after all of this, if your product or service is complex and if you're planning on having meeting, allow them to book a meeting through your email or landing pages using a tool like Calendly, which is free. Ask probing and discovery questions early on so you can structure your conversation. Discuss the goal of the conversation early on, and make sure you have proper lighting and audio quality and a stable internet connection. Make sure you highlight the benefits of your solution and not features. Allow time for Q&A, and then discuss next steps, so that while they're on the call, it's very easy to set up the next meeting then after they leave the meeting. So those are just some simple best practices for a demo or a meeting. I would recommend that if you are planning on doing a demo, it's always dangerous to do a live demo. In that case, I would suggest having screenshots of your different screens, so that in case there is an issue with the live demo, you are able to actually show them the screenshots, which is a lot more reliable and safer. So now we have covered all the points. We first looked at how to build personas, how to create your contact list, how to build a good sales copy, build a landing page, and then how to use that sales copy in your email and LinkedIn outreach, and then have a successful meeting. Of course, you can bring all of these elements together, and you can connect them with this blueprint. So building the contact list, doing the multi-channel outreach, directing that audience to your landing page or your website, and then engaging with that audience. So with that, let me quickly share some resources and tools, and then we'll go into any questions you may have. So here are some free resources. As I mentioned, LeadBx, if you think that widget would be useful, and if you'd like to offer ebooks to your audience, just simply send me an email at kshroff@inspire360.com. That's inspire with E, and Shroff with 2F. And then if you're interested in a free website and marketing checklist, so there are other elements as well that we did not cover because we wanted to focus and due to sort of the time we have. So if you're interested in things like social media marketing, search engine optimization, we have put together this checklist that has tactical step-by-step instructions on how you can do all of those things as well. So if you think that would be useful, just go on our website, inspire360.com. There'll be a pop-up. And if you provide your email address, you'll be able to download this checklist, which has a lot more detail than what we covered in this conversation. And again, this checklist will also be useful if you're in B2C space. So this is not just specific to B2B, it covers both B2B and B2C. So if you think that would be useful, go on the inspire360.com website, wait for that pop-up and provide your email address and you'll be able to download this. Here are some of the tools we discussed. SalesQL, GMass for email deployment. It's a great tool. Linked Helper for LinkedIn outreach. Lead pages. If you're using Wix or WordPress, I would suggest you can use that for building landing pages as well. Calendly for calendar booking. And these are the three tools for validating the email addresses and your email copy to make sure it gets delivered in the inbox and doesn't get stuck in the spam filter. So these are some of the tools and resources we would recommend you use. Of course, there are plenty of other tools that you can explore as well. These are the ones we have used and had good success with. So I hope you found this session useful. Hopefully you learned at least some new tools, tips, tactics, and hopefully some of the examples were useful as well. I'll pause here and see if there are any questions that I can answer.
Thank you, Mr. Shroff. I would, if it's okay, I'll take up some of the questions that are posted on the chat box.
Sure.
So the first question is, the last question posted was, what's the difference between a landing and a web page? How do we decide which page to go for when we start off? Okay,
very good question. So I would say, so this is what, so I'll show you a website. So this is what our website looks like. And as you can see, there you have all this navigation at the top. So there are usually website has a lot more detail and has multiple pages. And it's designed to provide a lot more information. Whereas a landing page is designed for one specific action. So when we looked at an example of a landing page, you are missing the navigation. You have only one action that a user can take, which is fill out their email address to get started, or it could be download an ebook or set up a meeting. So it's designed for one specific action. And usually landing pages convert a lot better than a website. So while a website may have a lot more information, and you may think instinctively that a website will convert better because it has a lot of distraction. And remember, confused mind says no, right? So website has a lot of options. It has a lot of pages. So users are not as likely to take a specific action. Is designed to build credibility. It's designed to maybe drive some search traffic. But if you are using email communication, if you are using ads, then landing pages tend to be a lot more effective. So our suggestion, and also the thing with landing pages, you can create, and you should create, one landing page for each one of your segment audience, right? So in our case, we have, so here, I would create a landing page that is designed for a doctor would be very different than a landing page I would create for an agency partner, would be very different than a landing page I would create for a manager of a mid-sized organization. So the language, the images, the call to action would be all different. Whereas on a website, because you're not able to segment, you're stuck with the lowest common denominator. So your language is very general. Whereas on a landing page, you can have a very specific language and images based on your segment. So you should have one landing page for each one of your persona and each one of your segments. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Mr. Shroff. The next question is, I think you have actually covered this in some detail in your presentation, but being a startup, what kind of digital marketing tools and channels can be chosen? If you would like to, since you've already touched upon this topic a bit, would you like to add something more to what you've already said?
Yeah, well, what I would say is, as you're a startup, there are a lot of unknowns. As you're incrementally spending more time, effort, resources, you also want to incrementally de-risk the business model. And I think the ultimate validation comes from the market. So what you and I may think in a conference room is irrelevant if the market rejects us. So the best idea is to get your product or service in front of your ideal audience and gather feedback. And to the degree that you can build a closed feedback loop and you can get unfiltered reaction and feedback from your audience, the better you'll be able to reposition your product, change your language, change your positioning, and maybe in future also add or remove features. So my suggestion would be start with sort of email communication, LinkedIn, outreaches, those sort of things before you invest money and time and effort into paid ads. The other thing is also if you're using something like social media, first of all, a lot of brands get it wrong. So our suggestion, and it's designed for awareness to get the word out, but it's very poor at lower part of the funnel in building engagement or also in closing and converting those leads into sales. So our suggestion would be initially, as you're starting out, to focus more on email, LinkedIn, maybe even even optimizing your site if you have sufficient amount of content on your site, and then later on focus on things like ads and social media. Social media and those things can work. Some brands, even in B2B space, have done well, but they do take up a lot of effort. And we have seen that our clients get a lot better traction with email and LinkedIn than with some of the other channels. So my suggestion would be to start with this. My also suggestion would be start with the tools that we have suggested here. There are plenty of other options. We have tried a lot of different options, and these are the ones we have netted out with. And also, if you have questions on any of the tools that we have recommended, you can always send me an email and I can help you if it's a tool I've used. If you're using a tool that we have not used, we may not be able to help you. So that would be my suggestion. And then, of course, do research, see what others in your space are doing, where there may be gaps in the marketplace. That can be a unique opportunity. So if no one else is doing something, there may be a reason why they're not doing it, or that may be a unique space that you can occupy.
Thank you, Mr. Shroff. Something connected to that is how digital marketing can be used to create sustainable revenue model and accurate sales returns of interest for any business.
So my suggestion would be to, once you set up this blueprint, is to constantly have an email outreach or once you have exhausted some segments, which will take a while before you do, then to move on to other segments, which may also find your product or service useful. So the whole idea is that, so in our case, what we do is we do an outreach to at least 500 of our prospects every week, 100 a day.
Okay.
But we started with something like 10. Now the list may keep evolving, right? So as certain individuals don't respond, or some individuals may say, I'm not interested in your product, remove me from your contact list. That's totally fine. That will happen. Then you keep building your list and you keep expanding your list. So you're always targeting new audiences or new individuals within the same segment. And so essentially you've created this pipeline that is constantly bringing in new leads and new customers. And by the way, I also saw a message about landing page. So I just want to quickly address that as well. So the way you drive traffic to your landing page initially would be through email and LinkedIn outreach. So for example, if you see our email outreach, let me just show you here. This link would take you to a landing page where they can now transact, and we would say, you provide your email address to start your 14-day trial. Right now, if you don't have a landing page, you could also send them to your website. But as I mentioned, make sure your call to action and your messaging is very clear and it's a very clean website. But you can also send them to your website where they can then transact. So the idea is that you drive traffic from your email communication, from your LinkedIn outreach, and you would provide a link to your landing page or to your website.
Two related questions.
Yes.
When should a startup start forming a contact list of potential customers? Should it begin in ideation phase or should it be started in the trials phase? And the second one is, can we do a customer targeted LinkedIn promotion at the initial stage of the startups?
Oh, customer. So instead of B2B, can we use it for B2C?
Yes, I think the questionnaire is going in that direction, a B2C model.
So my suggestion regarding the first question would be that if you do start building out your contact list, what happens is those contacts become very stale because people constantly change their email address, their phone numbers. So my suggestion would be that build your contact list when you're ready to do an outreach. And if you're doing an outreach, you have to have something valuable to share with them. Otherwise, they'll start discounting your emails if you send them emails which don't connect with them. My also other suggestion would be, as you're validating your idea, please join Facebook groups, connect with your audience, or if let's say if there's a related book on the topic, you can actually go on Amazon and read reviews from your audience and see what kind of issues they have, what kind of challenges they have. So there are plenty of other ways that you can get into the shoes of your prospects to understand their needs and their challenges, and also to maybe even validate your idea. And one of the things that we have seen is startups tend to be very careful that someone will copy their idea. And a lot of the startups, so you can get the validation early on from those channels. And regarding the second question, our suggestion would be to build this will work mostly in B2B, but you could use this for B2C as well. Remember, B2C, this method tends to work a lot better in B2C. You could use this for B2B in addition to sort of generating traffic from search engine and from social media and those channels. And in addition to that, you could do targeted outreach. But B2C segment is very broad. So you could use it in conjunction with this sort of a lead gen approach in B2C segments.
Okay, I think we can we'll take up the one last question, and that is from my side actually.
Sure.
I wanted to know, is there a general rule about what type of products or services are more suitable for a B2B business model as compared to a B2C or vice versa?
So what we have seen is the sales process in B2C, believe it or not, there are some products which can go in both B2C and B2B. And a lot of individuals, a lot of startups don't think more broadly. So for example, but B2B needs are a lot more sophisticated. The buying process is very different. The lag time is a lot more, but then the account size can also be substantial compared to B2C. And remember, in B2B, they're looking for a complete solution. Whereas in a B2C, they may be looking for sort of a quick hit. So in the B2B segment, the way you market, it's sort of very in B2C, emotions work very well. they don't need a lot of details when making a purchasing decision. It tends to be low transaction value in most cases. The product or service needs to be simpler, or at least your communication needs to be simplified significantly. Whereas in B2B, they'll probably do a lot more due diligence. The sales cycle is a lot longer. So if you have a complex product or service, and if you have higher price point product or service that you think is enterprise grade, then I think B2B may make more sense. And the way you would communicate is also very different. They will look for case studies, they'll look for white paper, they look for demo, they would want a lot more validation, and they'll also expect a higher price point, and your margin tends to be a little different as well in B2B. In B2C, your margin tends to be lower, but the volume tends to be bigger.
Okay. I think it's a follow-up question from one of the earlier participants who posted one. I think this will be the last question we take before we close the session. So the question is, do you recommend cold calling for a B2B based on SaleQL resources? What is the success rate?
Cold calling.
I'm not sure if the word SaleQL is correct, but you have a
So I would say, believe it or not, cold calling in addition to email and LinkedIn outreach is incredibly effective. And one of the because it's non-scalable, it appears non-scalable. I remember when I was at Prudential, the vendors which would get my attention the most were individuals who would follow up their email with a phone call, and they would say something like, hey, I send you an email, just wanted to introduce myself. If you have any question, here's my contact information. Now I'm more likely to read that email because it seems like he could not have sent that email to 10,000 people. If he made an effort to call me, it seems like it may be a very small volume. And the second thing that's going in my mind is that this person has my phone number. So next time he calls me, and if I pick up the phone, I better have read his email. So it seems very non-scalable. So I think it's a very effective combination to combine email and LinkedIn outreach with a phone call as well. And by the way, before I forget, I also provided the link to this deck in the chat. Yeah. So if anyone wants to access this for reference later on, you can click on that link and you can access this presentation deck for reference in future.
Yes. I think I would request all the people attending the talk today to please take note of this link and have a copy of the presentation saved for yourself for any future reference. It's very good information for anybody going into marketing at any stage of their product development currently. So all I can do right now is thank Mr. Kaushal Shroff for a very informative and a very detailed presentation. I'm sure all of you have also learned a lot from his experiences and the details of techniques that he has just demonstrated in navigating the business landscape and the possibilities of your marketing outreach activities. Sumitra, over to you.
Thank you, sir. So thank you so much, Mr. Kaushal, for spending your time this early morning. I hope that it was a great session, and I hope the startups got valuable insights from your knowledge. So once again, I thank you, sir, and also I thank Dr. Hardeep Vora for hosting today's session. So before I close the session, we have created a feedback form link. So I will be posting the form link in the chat box. So I request the participants to fill the feedback form, which will improve our sessions in the future. So one second, I will post the feedback form. So I have posted the feedback form link in the chat box. So I request all the participants to fill the feedback form. So thank you, the participants, for joining the session. So once again, I thank the speaker, Mr. Kaushal, and Dr. Hardeep for coordinating the session. Thank you and have a good day. And one more thing, Dr. Kaushal. So we will be posting the session in the YouTube channel. I hope that is fine with you.
Yes, certainly. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir. And thank you for the participants.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.